My parents told me there wasn't enough room for me and my kids at the annual lake house trip. Then they posted a group photo. 22 people, extra air mattresses, even my ex's new girlfriend. I didn't argue. I made one call. 7 hours later, my brother was banging on my door, sweating, furious. He had no idea what I'd done. When my parents told me there wasn't enough room at the lake house this year, I didn't push back. I just said okay and hung up. My mom's voice had that fake sympathetic tone she uses when she wants to sound caring but also be done with the conversation. I didn't ask who was going. I already knew it wouldn't include me or the kids. I told my son and daughter we weren't going this year, that grandma said the house was too full. My daughter, who's 7, asked why we couldn't just bring sleeping bags like last time. I told her it was just too crowded. She didn't understand, but she accepted it. My son just shrugged and said, whatever. He's been quiet about these things since the divorce. 3 days later they posted the photo. It was one of those big cheesy group shots with everyone squeezed together on the dock, smiling like this was the best weekend of their lives. 22 people. I counted. My parents, my 3 siblings and their families, a couple of cousins, my uncle and his new girlfriend, even one of my sister's friends who's always just going through a rough patch, and somehow always has a seat at the table. And then right in the center like a trophy stood my ex-husband. My ex smiling, beer in hand, arm around the woman he left me for. They were both laughing at something like it was all just so perfect. I didn't get a call asking if I was okay with them coming. I didn't even get a heads up. But that's how my parents are. Ever since the divorce, they've made it clear that I embarrassed them. My mom even said once while half drunk that people like us don't get divorced. As if staying with a man who cheated and disappeared was somehow more respectable than leaving. And yet when they needed help last winter, I was the one they called. My dad left a voicemail in January. The house was close to foreclosure. They were 3 months behind. I listened to him explain how they'd never ask if it wasn't serious, how they just needed a little help to get back on track. I didn't even ask for the full details. I transferred $7,800 the next day and texted them to say it was done. They both called crying. My mom said she didn't know what they'd do without me. My dad called me their lifeline. Funny how short their memories are. So I logged into my bank's portal. They'd set up auto payments through my account to cover the last few months, just until things stabilized. I opened the page, found the recurring transfer and canceled it. Simple. No drama. No text. No announcement. I just crossed my name off the list. 7 hours later there was a knock at my door. Loud and aggressive. I already knew who it was before I checked the peephole. My brother David. Red-faced, sweating, furious. He had no idea what I'd done, or why. But I stayed calm. I opened the door slowly, let him in and waited for the explosion. David didn't waste a second. He walked in like he owned the place, like I'd broken some sacred rule and he was here to deliver justice. His voice was already loud as he demanded to know what I was thinking. Apparently, Mom had tried to pay the mortgage and got a decline notice. She called the bank, then called him. He was crying. Of course she was crying. I just stood there watching him unravel. He said I was cruel, said the kids, meaning our parents, were counting on me. Then he said something that stuck. You don't get to pull support just because your feelings are hurt. I didn't even flinch. I asked him if he remembered who covered their bills when they were drowning 4 months ago. He ignored that. I asked if he remembered who got left out of the family vacation while our mom rolled out an air mattress for my ex-husband's girlfriend. That finally shut him up for a second. I told him politely that this wasn't his business and I'd appreciate it if he left. He stared at me like he didn't recognize me, then turned and walked out without another word. An hour later the text started. My mother first. Paragraphs. She was disappointed. She was heartbroken. She didn't raise me to be vindictive. Then my dad chimed in. He didn't say much. Just said he thought I was better than this. That was his way, quiet, guilt-loaded, never directly apologizing but making sure I felt the weight of it. I didn't respond. That evening after I put the kids to bed, I poured a glass of wine and sat on the couch. My phone kept buzzing. First my sister. Then my aunt. Even my cousin Brian, who hadn't spoken to me in over a year, messaged saying I was being dramatic. They must have been in a group chat together, feeding off each other's panic now that the golden goose had flown the coop. I scrolled through the lake house photos again. My kids used to love that place. We used to go every year, even before the divorce. I remembered my daughter helping my mom make pancakes in that kitchen. My son fishing off the dock with my dad. And now not even a spot on an air mattress for them. It was never really about space. It was about shame. I was the single mom who reminded them of everything messy and complicated. They preferred to keep things simple and Instagram-worthy. They forgot something important though. I'm the one who saved their house. And now they'd have to figure out how to keep it. On their own. The first 2 days after David left my doorstep, everything went still. No more pounding at the door. No calls. No texts. Just silence. It was almost eerie, like they were regrouping. I knew my family too well to believe it was over. That quiet broke on Thursday morning. I was halfway through my shift at the clinic, sipping on burnt break room coffee and scrolling through my emails, when one of the nurses walked in and said, "Hey, Jess, I think your mom's here." I didn't even ask what she meant. I knew. I walked into the waiting area and there she was, sitting on one of the plastic chairs like she was waiting for a dental cleaning. Full makeup. Hair done. Purse in her lap like it was Sunday brunch. The nurse glanced between us, probably sensing the tension, and quickly excused herself. I asked her to come outside. As soon as we were out by the parking lot, she started in with her lines. Said she didn't raise me to act like this. That I was being cruel. That family was supposed to take care of each other, especially in hard times. The performance was flawless. I didn't interrupt. When she finally paused, I said, "You raised me to be useful, not loved." She froze. I don't think she expected me to come out swinging like that. She tried to backpedal, told me I was twisting things, that I was reading too much into it. Then she said the thing that made my blood go cold. "We didn't invite you because we knew it would be awkward, for everyone." Everyone. Meaning the rest of the family. Meaning my ex-husband and his girlfriend. Meaning the people they prioritized over their own daughter and grandkids. The same ones they rolled out air mattresses for. She looked tired suddenly. The tears started, not the real ones but the practiced ones. She said they needed help. The mortgage was due Monday. They had nothing. That they might lose the house. I asked how they'd been planning to keep the house going long-term if one missing payment put them on the edge. She didn't answer. Just said they thought things would turn around. That they never thought I'd do this to them. I didn't raise my voice. I just laid it out. 4 months of full payments. $7,800 up front. Not a single thank you card. Not a word of appreciation after the first phone call. And then they cut me and my kids out of the only vacation they ever do, invited the man who broke our family, and smiled for the camera like we never existed. I told her that whatever guilt trip she came to deliver wasn't going to work. That I wasn't going to apologize for stepping back from people who only remember I exist when the bills show up. She tried one last card. Said she and Dad were getting older. That they didn't know how many years they had left in that house. I told her maybe it was time they started thinking about that seriously. She left without another word. That night the phone started buzzing. First 1 missed call from Dad. Then 5. He never leaves voicemails, so I just let them stack. At 10:47 p.m. I got a text. "You've made your point. I hope this was worth it." I stared at it for a minute. My first instinct was to reply. To defend myself. But I didn't. Instead, I silenced the notifications, closed the Messages app, and turned off the light. For the first time in a long time, I didn't feel like I owed them anything. By the weekend, I knew the fallout had started. My sister Rachel texted something vague about checking in, which was her way of trying to fish for drama without looking like she was taking sides. I ignored it. Then my cousin Lily messaged me asking if everything was okay with the situation. I didn't respond to that either. But then Sunday hit and things got louder. David called again. This time he left a voicemail. He said Mom wasn't sleeping, that Dad had started talking about selling the house. He said the family was falling apart, and that it was because I decided to make a point. That was the word he kept using. Make a point. Like I was throwing a tantrum. Like I hadn't carried the weight of this family for the past 4 months while barely holding myself together. He asked if I was really going to let the house go into foreclosure over a family squabble. I didn't listen to the rest. I deleted the message. That night my mom sent an email. I hadn't expected that. She doesn't usually go digital unless it's a recipe or a forwarded chain letter. The subject line was just "please." It was a long email. Rambling, emotional, filled with memories. She talked about when I was a little girl and how I used to help her bake cookies in that lake house kitchen. How she always imagined my kids would grow up with the same memories. She said she didn't mean to hurt me. That she just didn't want the family vacation to turn into a scene. And then, buried in the middle of all the emotional fluff, was the real ask. Could I at least cover one more payment? Just until they figured things out. One more. There was always going to be one more. I didn't reply. The next day I got a call from the bank. Not mine, theirs. They had listed me as an emergency contact on their mortgage application. The woman on the phone politely asked if I was able to speak on behalf of Howard and Marlene Taylor regarding their account. I told her no, I wasn't. And that she should remove my number. An hour later my dad showed up at my house. He stood on my porch like he was ready for a fight. I didn't invite him in. I stepped outside and closed the door behind me. He didn't yell. He just stared at me for a long time. Then he asked very calmly if I understood what I was doing to them. I told him I understood perfectly. He said they'd lose everything. I said they'd made their choices. Then he asked me something I wasn't expecting. Are you really cutting us off completely? I looked him in the eye and said yes. He blinked a few times, like he didn't believe I'd say it out loud. I told him this wasn't just about the mortgage or the vacation. It was about the years of conditional love, the way they only showed up when they needed something, the way they made me feel like a failure because I didn't pretend everything was fine after my life blew up. He nodded slowly. Then he said something I'll never forget. Well, then I guess we'll see who really needs who. And he walked away. That's when I knew the game was finally over. By Monday morning, I expected another call, another message, maybe even another ambush. But there was nothing. Just silence again. I dropped the kids off at school, went to work, did my shift, came home. Around 6 p.m. I got a call from an unknown number. I let it ring out. A minute later, a voicemail popped up. I played it on speaker while folding laundry. It wasn't one of my parents. It was the woman from the bank again. But this time she wasn't calling about missed payments. She was informing me that someone had attempted to refinance the house using my financial details. I stopped folding. She said the application had flagged for review because it included my name and social security number. I had no knowledge of this, obviously. She gave me a number to call back and said I should file a fraud alert. I called immediately. After confirming the details, the rep read off the application notes. The income section listed my employer, my salary range, even details about my benefits package. My parents had apparently submitted paperwork pretending I was co-signing a refinance. It all clicked too fast. They didn't just assume I'd cave. They planned for it. Maybe they figured if I wouldn't help voluntarily, they'd just push the paperwork through and let me find out later. By the time I did, the loan would be approved and I'd be tethered to that house legally, probably for years. The betrayal hit different this time. It wasn't just manipulative. It was calculated. I drove straight to the bank the next morning with my ID, pay stubs, and a printed fraud affidavit. They took me seriously once they saw the documents. I froze my credit, flagged my social security number, and filed a police report just to have it on record. I didn't even cry. I didn't even get angry. I just went numb. On the way home, I stopped at the mailbox. Inside was a letter with no return address. I opened it standing on the sidewalk. It was a typed note. No signature. It said, "You might feel powerful now, but families come back around. You'll regret being alone when it's your turn to need someone." I stared at the paper. The threat wasn't subtle. It also wasn't unexpected. I folded it in half and slid it into my purse. I wasn't scared. I was just done. That night I called a lawyer. Not just for the identity theft, though that was part of it. I wanted to know exactly how to remove my name from anything that tied me to them. The emergency contacts, the will, the insurance forms they'd secretly added me to. Every little thing they might have clung to as a way to pull me back in. The lawyer said something that stuck with me. He said, "You're not cutting ties. You're closing the loopholes." It was quiet in the house after that. The kids were asleep. The porch light was on. My phone was charging face down on the counter. And for the first time in my life, I felt untouchable. 2 days passed. The quiet returned, but it was different now. It wasn't the kind of silence that comes before a storm. It was the kind that follows after someone's run out of moves. I thought that was the end. Until Thursday night. I was putting the recycling out when I noticed a car parked a little too far down the block. Not directly in front of my house, but just far enough to look like it wasn't watching. Only it hadn't been there before. I know the regulars on this street. This car didn't belong. I didn't think much of it until it was still there the next night. And the next. Same car. Same spot. Lights off. Sometimes running, sometimes not. Always empty when I tried to see who was inside. On the 4th night, I walked straight toward it with my phone in hand. By the time I got halfway down the block, it pulled off and disappeared. No plates I could catch. I filed a report just in case. The officer said it was probably nothing. Could be an Uber driver between gigs, he said. Maybe. Maybe not. Then Saturday morning came. There was a knock at the door. But it wasn't my family. It was a woman I didn't recognize. Late 40s, tight bun, heavy eyes. She introduced herself quietly. Said her name was Ellen. She asked if she could speak to me privately. I hesitated, but something about her posture told me this wasn't random. I stepped outside and shut the door behind me. She told me she used to work with my father. Years ago. At a local contracting firm that folded in 2017. She said she remembered him because he had a reputation. Good with people, charming, persuasive. But not always ethical. I didn't know where she was going with this. Then she told me he had used her name once. On a credit line. Without her knowledge. Said it wasn't huge, just under 10 grand. She found out when she tried to buy a car and was denied. The debt had been quietly paid off, so she never reported it. She didn't want the mess. But she found out recently that he might have done it again. To someone else. Me. She didn't know for sure. Just that she heard from someone who used to know my dad that he was desperate again, and trying old tricks. She warned me to check everything. Old joint accounts. Co-signed documents. Any signatures I didn't recognize. Then she left. No phone number. No last name. Just gone. I stood there on the porch for a few seconds before going back inside. I opened the closet, pulled down the fireproof box I keep all my documents in, and started going through them. That's when I found it. A home equity form. Old. From 3 years ago. Before the divorce. My signature at the bottom. But it wasn't mine. It looked like my writing. But I didn't remember signing it. I wouldn't have. I knew that without a doubt. He'd forged it. And I'd never noticed. That night I made one more phone call. Not to my parents. Not to the bank. I called a forensic document examiner. Because the mortgage wasn't the only thing they were about to lose.